Thank you. We're about to begin our second part of our staff development agenda. So if everybody can take a seat, and we can get ready to begin our second part of the presentation. Our keynote speaker today is a very special friend. He's an expert in the field of youth development. He's the youth pastor at Harlem Soul Saving Station, the chaplain at St. Christopher's Youth Residential Center. And I'm honored and privileged to state that I'm currently working together with him on an initiative called the Arches Transformational Mentoring Program in conjunction with the Department of Probation and the Mayor's Young Men's Initiative. It's an initiative to reach disconnected youth. Please welcome my friend, Reverend Maurice Winley.
I just want to say I'm really excited about being here, just hearing the passion, the candor that you all have at Wildcat. I'm very honored to be here to be able to share. I'm not going to talk a little bit. I want to do the presentation, and hopefully, if there's some time, we can go into some Q&A, and I'll talk a little bit more about what I do. But he said briefly, I've worked in youth development for the past 16 years, primarily with disadvantaged and disconnected youth. I work with youth in a variety of systems and settings, whether it's incarcerated youth, work with them while they're in Rikers Island, preparing for reentry. I've worked, St. Christopher's, Inc., as he stated, is an adolescent residential treatment facility. It's a special act school district, and I'm sure as educators, y'all know what a special act school district is. So we operate 4 high schools. All the kids come from the New York City area. In addition to providing chaplaincy, I serve as the Director of Project Development there. As Alex stated, I also work in Harlem, in my church, and serving as a youth pastor. I serve on the board of the 125th Street Business Improvement District. Business Improvement District, wherever you have any type of major retail or commercial corridor, the city will designate these as business improvement districts. They're non-for-profits. They work together to provide benefit and enhancements for that corridor. So, for example, Times Square is a business improvement district. 125th Street, which you have Columbia University, or in the west side, going to Fifth Avenue, is one of the major community districts, and I'm there creating a youth workforce initiative. So that's a little bit about myself. Let me enjoy Dr. Brown. Let's give him a hand. I adjusted some things. Let's go to the next slide. Youth development is to me, it's a passion, it's a mission. I'm so glad that I chose to enter this field. Prior to entering into youth development, I was a project manager for a union contractor. Did a lot of, I'm very familiar with this area, did a lot of work down in this area in particular. And, but one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because you all were talking about studies. Hardwired to Connect is a very excellent study that was put on. It was a group called the Commission for Youth at Risk. 33 lead organizations, when I say lead organizations, Harvard, Columbia, top pediatricians, social scientists from all across the country, they got together and they wanted to begin having dialogue about the issues confronting our young people. And they produced a report called Hardwired to Connect, a new scientific case for authoritative communities, and it was called the Commission at Risk. You could go ahead to the next slide. Keep going. And again, the purpose of the, keep going, Alice. They produced a study, your leader stated how relationships, and what they pretty much stated was this, that in the midst of all of this cultural influences, you can continue going until you see crisis in America. In the midst of all of this material affluence that we have in our country, why do we see such a profound mental deterioration with our kids? Why do we see such a profound mental deterioration with our young people? And they came out with, and again, these are top academic, collegial institutions having some serious dialogue. And what do you feel that they came out with the causes? What was the causes they stated? And so you have this high rising rates of depression, anxiety. I apologize if you're not able to see all the material, so I'll just make sure that I share it. The high rising rates of depression, all the things that you've already talked about and we've underscored in part one of this dialogue, as we look at engaging and understanding youth culture and the intersection, the opportunity we have as educators to intervene and to connect with them in that struggle. Thoughts of suicide, mental illness, emotional behavioral problems among U.S. children. Why in the midst of all of this influence? And I believe one of your colleagues stated how he said, I believe he was from Greenwich, and it was an area of affluence, and how he's seen some of the same issues in terms of delinquency and maladaptive behavior taking place, and they had all of the resources that most of our kids wish they had. That is our kids that are working or living in a city. And so, what is the cause of this crisis in America? And you could go on. And the thing is, it said, how as we as a community, how are we thinking about these problems? You know, and I think that it's very important. Again, I appreciate the process of just being able to come in and just see how the learning community that's here and how each one was beginning to build off. And that's what it's going to take. If we can never become static in our understanding of youth and the problems and the dilemmas. And as you saw from the brain research, that our knowledge is progressive. It's not, we cannot just rely on static data. We have to, if we're going to be impactful practitioners, then we must master the discipline of innovation. And so innovation, and when I look at innovation, that means my cup must always be half empty. I can never get to a place where I feel that I'm an expert, that I have arrived. And so, youth in crisis, we go ahead to the text. And so, like I said, as a community, how are we thinking about this deterioration and our failure to recognize as a collective? A lot of times, compartmentalization, and that is, we see education, we see family, we see welfare, we see criminal justice, we see all these systems, services that are impacting our young people, but yet where is the coordination and intersection among those systems? And even your president talked about competition. Sometimes there's an unintentional competition as each of these industries are pursuing their given missions, which are noble, but because of the lack of communication and operating as a collective, we're seeing growing numbers of suffering children. And again, this is a panel of 33 lead organizations, and I will be glad to send the executive summary to you so you can really see the clout of individuals. I mean, Dartmouth, Harvard, Columbia, I mean, expert individuals that really went into this. And so the cause of this crisis is this, and you can proceed to the next slide. Real basic fundamental things. The lack of connectedness. And to me, this kind of blew me away. And in this study, they go into an in-depth analysis of the neuroscience of adolescent development, such as Dr. Brown has already elucidated for us very well. And they really talk about that adolescent brain development, in particular, how we are wired to connect. And you already have underscored how we see the devastation of family, the devastation of insignificance and poverty, and what this does to the adolescent state of mind and being. So they said a lack of connectedness is the cause, the root, and close connections to other people. So we're talking about the quality and the quantity of relationships. The quality and the quantity of relationships. And deep connections to spiritual and moral meaning. And so, again, like I said, I want you to approach this talk with, and I know that we have an astute faculty and staff here, but again, the glass half empty. In youth development, the theories have progressed from prevention, and when Dr. Brown asked a question about some of the issues or who are our students, a lot of us, as I was listening, we began to identify, we began to throw out a variety of names and situations. Prevention basically focuses on looking at the problems or the risk factors that you face. And then we look at the protective factors that we can bring around to help ameliorate those problems or risk factors. Okay, so that's prevention. And so now you have what you call achievement or strengths-based or capacity building. So achievement means we have to get kids to succeed. They need to get their driver's license. They need to work. They need to get their GED. And so what I'm telling you, I'm giving you a sense of the progression of youth development theory. And so now you have achievement. But the question is, you can hold it there. The question is that enough? Is it enough to just remove problems? Is it enough to just prepare them? How do we fully engage young men and women in the urban context? You all have a significant handle on the students that you serve. How do we engage them? How do we really engage them? Oh, this is a quote, very interesting quote. While they love honor, and that is young people, they love victory the more. For youth is eager for superiority over others, and victory is one formative. They love both more than they love money, which indeed they love very little, not having yet learned what it means to be without it. All their mistakes are in the direction of doing things excessively and vehemently. Can you go to the next slide? Our youth now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for their elders and love chatter in the place of exercise. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up their food, and you gotta make sure you get this one. Tyranny. Their teachers. Would y'all agree with some of those statements that was made? Do you know those statements was written over 2,300 years ago? Those statements have been attributed to Aristotle. And so what am I saying? I'm saying there's nothing new under the sun. The task of engaging young people has always been a fundamental task of society. And one of the things I think that the brain research really brings to bear, it brings to bear how we have overly stigmatized the adolescent experience. I want to give you an acrostic. Normal. This is the normal adolescent experience. And it's for the narcissistic. Talking about young people. We have a good handle on why they are narcissistic, self-centered. Narcissistic, always for opposition. Normal, young people, opposition. R is for rude. We already saw about the amygdala and the inability or the learning to manage one's tensions and one's regulating your emotions. M is for mouthy. How many have run into mouthy students? Mouthy. A is for antagonistic. Antagonistic. And L is for lewd. For lewd. And brothers and sisters, academicians, this is the normal adolescent experience. This is what it means to go from childhood to becoming an adult. And so we have to make sure that as we see the risk behaviors, that we still understand it in a normal light. And then when you add the layers that we already identified of poverty, of hereditary genetic issues, we talked about the crack cocaine epidemic and the devastation that it has brought into communities. So we have to be able to have a systemic view. And so the point is, when you look at youth development, we're hoping that you walk away from this time where you once looked at the young people in black and white, and now we went to color, but we want y'all to look at them in Blu-ray high definition 3D. Problem-free is not fully prepared. Fully prepared is not fully engaged. This simple mantra shows the progression of youth development theory. Karen Pittman is one of the leading proponents on youth development in this country. And this is one of her phrases. You can go to the next slide, sir. And so the adolescent journey, continue going. One of the key stages, and there's so many different stage models for identifying the adolescent experience. But again, as we see, we can identify stages, but we have to always remember the principle of responsivity, and that is that we have to always have everything person-centered. That is, we have to remember the individual, that each individual is unique, and we have to make sure that we don't just put people into a label or a bucket. And it's very easy to do. Can you continue to? So identity formation, you can continue to the rest of the slide. Identity formation obviously is the critical task of the adolescent journey. Futuring, they begin thinking about their future. What are they going to be? What are they going to do? All of it driven around identity. Self-direction, and obviously we know about self-direction.